Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Globally acknowledged and respected, Sinta Ebersohn is a pioneer voice in the field of post-traumatic growth. With decades of lived and professional experience, she empowers individuals, families, and workforces to turn adversity into strength and disruption into transformation. Thank you so much, Sinta, for being here today. And if I mess up your name, or maybe just go ahead and say your name again for our audience.
Thank you so much, Karen. You did it very well. Sinta Ebersohn, so that was very close. Thank you for having me.
Sinta, yes. Yes, everybody that listens to my show knows I have a challenge with a lot of my guest names because I have a very diverse and global audience. So, yeah. So thank you for being here. What made you want to be a guest on the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast? Is it your personal story? Is it the work you do? Or is it a little of both?
I think it's a little of both. My personal story is quite inspiring. I think it inspires me every day. So there's so much to learn from people's stories, and that's why I feel called to share my story with people. And then obviously what I learned from it, the valuable life lessons that I learned from it has helped me and trained me, I almost want to say, to do the work that I do. So the two are actually interlinked very much for me.
Beautiful. And as you probably know, that my audience is women and a few good men. Some men do listen to my show, who are survivors of complex trauma, meaning they had trauma throughout their lifespan in one way or another. How do you relate to that complex trauma?
I have quite a story of trauma starting in very early childhood. And to give you an indication, the ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Experiences, that's known to most people, I've experienced all of them. And I've actually added two experiences to them. One is abandonment, and the other one is alienation, which is something that's rife these days. I experienced all of those. And the things that are widely regarded as the top stressors in life, death of a loved one, loss of your livelihood or your income, divorce, separation, a dreaded disease or a life-threatening illness. I've experienced all of those things throughout my life, which were traumatic and added to my fruit salad of trauma. But I didn't realize that I had actually been suffering from complex PTSD until 3 years ago when I was officially diagnosed with it. So it was stuff that almost built up through my life. And even though I had spent many years in therapy doing all kinds of different modalities and practices and processes that helped a lot, I never worked specifically with complex PTSD until very recently. So I'm aware that we can have it, walk through life with it without knowing. And I'm also very much aware of how our experiences all add up. And even if we are focused on making a concerted effort to work with our trauma, to work through it, to ask for help and get help, it can still prevail.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so you are the third person I know with a 10, and I've worked with trauma survivors for almost 30 years. I'm also a 10 on that original score, and I know they're expanding it, and I have other things that aren't on the list. So, what I know from having these scores, which don't tell the whole picture of our story, obviously, but what I know is there's several symptoms that can get in our way. We make a couple steps forward, and then one of the symptoms comes up and gets in our way. And it doesn't mean it has to stay in our way. It doesn't mean that we can't heal. Of course, we can heal. Of course, hope is more than possible. But do you feel comfortable maybe sharing a few of what I would call sticky symptoms that you struggled with that were a little bit harder to get through?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I'm thinking one of the big things that was always a hurdle for me was the hypervigilance that I had starting in early childhood, being sexually abused as a 4-year-old. And after that, on several occasions in different circumstances, it put me in such an extreme state of hypervigilance that I lived with my entire life. And as a small child, it turned me into a quiet, withdrawn, self-conscious, fearful little girl. But as I grew up, it turned me into a person who had trouble trusting other people, a person who picked specific kinds of partners, a person who would hold myself in until I blew up and then I would go into a rage. All sorts of interesting symptoms present themselves as you grow up. You become an adult, you interact with other people, and you start living in a work environment, and you have personal adult relationships and things. So I had specific behavioral patterns that I had adopted as a small child to keep safe or to survive that had evolved almost as I grew up into patterns that made it very difficult for me to have healthy relationships on an intimate level, to have healthy friendships, to have healthy relationships with my family and my siblings even. So I had to do a lot of work to understand what that hypervigilance did to me and how I acted or almost reacted every instance that I felt in the least bit unsafe or threatened or uneasy. I would resort to or default to certain behavioral patterns. So understanding that, learning about them, and getting to a point where I could literally catch myself in the act and recognize I'm doing it again. I'm going down that rabbit hole again. I'm being defensive. I'm being hypervigilant. That was the hardest thing for me to overcome.
Yeah.
To learn how to identify it and see it in myself. Because when you are able to catch yourself when you're doing it, you can stop it and you can change your behavior. But once you've let out the rage or the anger or the fear or the resentment, once you've let it out, it's gone and done harm to other people most of the time. So that was one of the biggest challenges, but also one of the most liberating things that I experienced.
Now, I really appreciate you sharing all of that with us. Did you, with the hypervigilance or the hyperarousal, did you have a lot of tension in your body because of it? Because I know that's a common symptom that I have and a lot of my clients.
I carried it in my body. And again, this is stuff that I only learned later in my life. And with the latest research and things, this knowledge has become more readily available. But I know now that we carry all the trauma in our bodies unless we do something specifically or deliberately to release that tension and that trauma from our bodies. So I had a very interesting experience starting in 2018. Over a period of 2 years, I was hit with so many illnesses and physical and medical challenges. It was incredible. I was diagnosed with a heart block first. Then I got cancer of the thyroid. Then I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and with celiac disease. And this all happened while I was perimenopausal, and I was also going through a period of grief because my godson had died a couple of months before that. So all of these things culminated over a short period of time, and it was as if my body just said, stop, this is enough. I cannot take this anymore. We can't keep doing this, because it was one thing after the other, and it literally ground me to a full stop. And I had to go and sit down and look at my situation, look at my life, look at my lifestyle, which incidentally was very healthy. I've always been very active. I've always eaten very healthily. I've always had a healthy lifestyle. But even regardless, I had all this trauma that was in my body. And when I started working with that, started working actively to resolve that trauma and to release it, I realized what it all meant. And for me, it was almost as if I got cancer in my throat because I was keeping all these secrets of what had happened to me as a child. I was carrying all of that alone, and I needed to get my voice back. And that was such a symbolic process for me to get my voice back, to clear my throat of the cancer that was growing. And I'm grateful to say that I've been in remission ever since. Thank goodness for that. But it was, like I said, symbolic. I had no voice. My stomach packed up literally because it felt like I just couldn't stomach it anymore. You know that expression that says, I cannot stomach this anymore? So my whole digestive system literally just packed up. And then the autoimmune stuff that comes with it, the celiac disease, the Hashimoto's, the cancer and everything. So it was a very interesting experience that taught me the incredible extent to which we carry our stuff in our bodies.
Yeah, your examples of what happened to your physical body is the poster child of complex trauma
Yeah,
attacking the body. Yeah.
yes.
So again, thank you for sharing that because I know talking about this is not always easy, but certainly very helpful for anybody listening who has different problems with their body and they don't know why. Complex trauma is usually one of the reasons why we are more vulnerable for
Mm,
different diseases and issues. Now that we've talked about that, you've talked about relationship difficulties, you've talked about physical health difficulties. What else? Did you have any spiritual, moral issues? Did you, were you upset with a higher power, or you maybe don't have a spirituality that you follow? And also your mental health. Did you grapple with anxiety, depression, anything like that? I know post-traumatic, I know complex PTSD is a mental health diagnosis, but
mm.
usually I haven't met anybody yet with that diagnosis who hasn't been depressed and anxious.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because it's all interwoven, the symptoms.
Mm.
I was depressed at certain periods of my life when things were really difficult. I remember when I went through my divorce, I think I was the most depressed that I'd ever been in my life. And that in itself is a traumatic experience, but it was accompanied with tremendous betrayal that was really hard for me to overcome. But it was also kind of the cherry on top with a mental thing that I'd carried from my childhood, and that was a deep rooted desire to prove myself, to get acknowledgement for what I know, for my expertise, for the work that I do, to the extent that I have spent my entire life studying. I have always worked very hard, not one job, two jobs, three, four, five different projects, and studying part-time on top of it. And I had to turn 50 odd years old to realize that I'd been working so hard to make up for what I had lost as a child. The love, the acknowledgement, the affection, being seen, being allowed to be myself, and then, of course, the abuse and the neglect that went with it. So I spent my whole life overdoing everything, burning the candle at both ends, trying to prove myself. And that to me is something spiritual and mental and intellectual. That's why I said it's all intertwined. And I had to come to a point where now I'm comfortable to say, because I am curious by nature, I love learning new things. So I'm still studying, but I'm doing one thing at a time. And when I'm finished, I'll take a break before I start the next thing. Whereas before, I'd be running six things at the same time and be constantly exhausted, sleep deprived, stressed, and all those things that go with it. And I mentioned earlier that I had a very healthy lifestyle, except for that one thing. I was totally overworked and had a lack of rest and relaxation. So another very valuable lesson I had to learn.
Most of us do, unfortunately. I'm still learning it, actually. I
Yeah.
grapple with working too much. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did your journey get you to be curious about post-traumatic growth? I know it's your personal experiences that probably made you curious and fascinated with it, I'm guessing.
Like I said, I've spent a very big portion of my life in some kind of therapy, counseling, psychoanalysis, all kinds of modalities and practices and things. I've done many of them, and I've also gotten myself qualified in many of them out of curiosity, because I was always trying to find out why things were so difficult for me. My life was always very difficult for me. And it's something people find strange. But for me, my whole life was always very heavy, very serious, and hard. I didn't have much joy and much enjoyment and lightheartedness. And it's because of my history and my experiences. But I had to find that balance. And I think I'm going a bit off track here, but
It's okay.
my interest was always there, and I've always had a keen interest in why we are the way we are, how humans work, the human condition, and understanding that. So I've always had a keen interest in that. I'm also an avid reader and researcher. But I came to a point where I was on the verge of a breakdown, and I realized that I had to do something drastic. I needed a very, very strong intervention to help myself. And that's when I reached out and I got diagnosed with complex PTSD. And that put me on the track of EMI, eye movement integration. And I think of all the things that I have done in my life so far, that was the most incredible and brought me the most breakthroughs. So that was just another new thing to learn, but it was absolutely incredible for me.
Okay, beautiful. And what other type of healings have been helpful? It doesn't have to be therapeutic modalities per se. It could be changing your nutrition, or it could be working on your spiritual growth. It could be meditation, focusing more on your breath work. Anything like that was also helpful.
Yeah. I'm a strong believer in harmony amongst all the aspects of my life, and I see it as an emotional, spiritual, an intellectual or a mental aspect. I have a physical aspect. I have a vocational side to me, and I have a financial side to me. I have a family aspect to my life. So I always aim to have harmony between all of them, or some kind of equilibrium that changes all the time. But I
Yep.
try to devote enough time and energy to all of them so that I can have that harmony in my life. And that means also my spiritual side. I have rituals. I love rituals. I have practices that I do. And this is different for all of us. But I spend a lot of time doing physical exercise. I have morning rituals. I go for a walk every morning. I do strength training because I'm 57, and at this stage it's very important that we keep our muscular strength for our longevity. I spend a lot of time reading and researching to keep my mind stimulated, and then time to rest and relax and just do nothing is a bit of a challenge for me and a stretch for me most of the time, but I'm managing that with help of family and friends and say, come on now, we have to socialize a bit, because I can be a hermit if I want to and just be with my books and my research. If you're as passionate about your work as I am, it's not really work. I never get tired of it. I never get tired doing it. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with brilliant new ideas, and I have to jump up and go and start working on them. So I don't ever feel like I need a break from work, but I need a break from my routine or my schedule just to maintain that harmony. So I like to work on every aspect of my life.
That's so beautiful. And tell me a little bit more of the work you do. Do you work one-on-one with clients? Do you do group work? Do you do workshops? Tell me more about that piece.
I work with all kinds of situations. I'm a first responder as well, so I work with trauma, immediate trauma, the really bad and the really ugly and shocking things. I have a passion for helping people when they really desperately need, so I'm on the forefront with that a lot of the time. And then I do trauma debriefing, and I have clients that I mentor through difficulties, hardships, setbacks, life challenges, or even traumatic experiences. And that can range from anything like a divorce or grief or career stuff or high conflict situations, all sorts of things. And then I have a Get Up and Grow community. Now, Get Up and Grow is a business that I started a few years ago, and it's founded on the principle that life knocks us down. And when that happens, we have to get up and grow. So I spend a lot of time creating content for this community. And in there are podcasts as well, educational videos. I write blog posts. I love writing also, and all kinds of resilience resources. I design strategic games and activities and things. I have a pet hobby where I do those sort of things and edographics and things like that. So I populate the community with a lot of resilience resources. So that's mostly where my time goes. And then I always like to say that I am a mother first and foremost. Family is the most important thing to me. So I do spend a lot of time with my children. I have two sons who are now 18 and 22, so they're grown up. But yes, that's always a priority to me. So that's more or less where the time goes.
Your community sounds beautiful. Beautiful. I love how you frame your strategy behind finding resources that will help your community grow. I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
I'm busy with the Get Up and Grow community at the moment. We're looking into maybe turning that into an app so that I can add even more resources and events and things, but that might still be in the medium term future ahead of us. For now, I'm 57, like I said, and I want to reach a couple of goals that I've set for myself by the age of 60. Strength training is one of them. My two sons are very avid strongman athletes, and they've now dragged mom along into it. I'm enjoying it very much, but I've got some goals set for my health, my strength, and my fitness that I'm working on, and we're going to be doing some interesting projects together, my sons and I. We've done projects in the past. We ran an anti-bullying campaign for 7 years, an international anti-bullying campaign when they were kids, as a result of them experiencing bullying in school. So that was a great project that we did, and now we're going to do some strongman projects. So that's what's in the cards at the moment for now.
Sounds like you raised a couple of holistic advocates.
I hope so.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
How do people learn more about your community, Get Up and Grow, or learn more about you in case they would like to reach out and work with you?
I have a personal website that's in my name, sintaebersohn.co.za, because I'm from South Africa. Everything is on there, and on there you'll also find links to all my projects. But I also have a website, getupandgrow.co.za, where the membership is, and you'll find everything there. Another one of my projects is Fair Divorce, which we're celebrating 10 years now. It's a platform that I launched for families going through separation and divorce that's specifically focused on that and blending new families. And you'll find a lot of free resources and things there also. So there are three places where you can find me. But if you go and look for my name, Sinta Ebersohn, you'll find that it's linked to all the other projects that I do.
Beautiful. We'll have your links in the show notes for anyone watching today. And I just want to thank you for being here today and sharing your story, but also sharing how you're growing from your story. That's really beautiful.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor talking to you. Thanks.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.